We have all heard the analogy that we must prepare for spiritual combat the same way we prepare for physical combat. But how many of us have actually ever trained for physical combat? Perhaps you like the thought of getting into jiu-jitsu or mixed martial arts, but you don't know where to begin. We meet today with the legendary El Guapo himself, once spoken of as the world's greatest martial artist. To discuss this and more, stay with us.
Welcome, gentlemen, to an episode I'm especially excited about. Today, we are joined by the legendary fighter, Bas Rutten. And before we get to that, though, I do want to encourage everyone who's listening to support us on Patreon. Producing high-quality content like this isn't free, and we want to continue to do this. So please provide your support at patreon.com/CatholicGentleman. It would be greatly appreciated. As I said, I'm especially excited about today's episode. We're joined today by the legendary UFC and kickboxing champion, Bas Rutten. Bas, I'm just going to give a brief introduction to you. You're the three-time King of Pancrase world champion. You're a UFC heavyweight champion formerly and a UFC Hall of Famer. And you finished your career with a 22-fight unbeaten streak, which is almost unheard of. UFC official statistics organization Fight Metric that said that when you got put into the UFC Hall of Fame, I love this, the statistics provided by the UFC ran the numbers on Bas Rutten's career. They back up the Dutchman's inclusion into the UFC Hall of Fame and then some. In the 4 hours and 27 minutes and 8 seconds he spent as a pro fighter, Rutten scored 13 knockdowns without getting dropped once himself. And his strike accuracy was 70.6%, the highest Fight Metric has ever recorded. So just unbelievable fight career. I remember when I was first getting into mixed martial arts in late high school and college, I remember watching some of your just unbelievable knockouts, some of them incredibly fast. You were an inspiration to me then, and then little did I know that years later we'd get to know each other and come to find out you're also a devout Catholic and you practice your faith. So welcome so much. Welcome, Bas. It's wonderful to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. It's crazy how God put things together, right? Because I was completely out of the faith, and then I got pulled back in like 2013, 14.
Yeah. Yes, and that's a great story. If anyone is interested in kind of reading a little bit of that journey, there's a great article, a written interview I did with Bas on the Catholic Gentleman website called The Faith of a Fighter. And it's a really incredible story. So maybe we'll hear a little bit more about that as the show goes on. But needless to say, you're a guy that no one would want to pick on in a bar fight or something like that. they would regret it. But how did you, just to get things started, how did you get into fighting?
I was very sick as a kid. I had a horrible skin disease and I had severe asthma. And the horrible skin disease was over my hands. I had to wear gloves. It was on my arms, it was on my neck and my ears. So needless to say, I was the leper in school, something I hated at that time when they would call me that. But now it's in the Bible, so I'm kind of good with it. And so bullied on a daily basis. And just seeing a Bruce Lee movie when I was 12, asking my parents if I could start training because I realized that if I would be like Bruce Lee, the bullying would stop. And it took me 2 years to convince them. They finally allowed me. And then everything went just really fast. In 2.5 months, I was beating the adults. I was training with the adults. Somebody took me to adult classes. And not all the adults, of course, but the not so good guys I was beating. But still, I was a kid. And then I overheard these guys talk about me in the dressing room. Man, that kid is really good. Did you see him? He dropped so-and-so. And everybody was laughing. So now I started listening to the adults instead of kids and realizing, hey, wait a minute, maybe I do have some talent. And then I got into a fight with the biggest bully in school. and I knocked him out. One punch. He asked me, hit me. Come on, leper, hit me. So I did. And I just was obliging. And that was it. The bullying stopped right away. They always say, don't. If I do anti-bullying campaigns, people are talking about, but you can't say that. I say, but then I'm not going to say anything. I say, I'm either going to say that or not, because it's the only thing that works for me. Try me. I tried talking. But those guys, they talk a different language. And guess what? This is their language. And that guy, by the way, he never bullied anymore. So I kind of helped him, if you really think about it.
So what did he do? He stopped bullying altogether?
I'm sorry?
He didn't just bully you anymore. He stopped bullying altogether?
Pretty much. So poor guy probably who didn't hear about the story would try something, and I would knock him out. So once the story went around, people, they stopped bullying me. And then I had a list, because now I got confident. And now I made a list with all the guys that have done things to me. And I start literally scratching off every single name on it. Now when I think about it, there was some guys who say, please, I don't even remember saying it. I say, I'm sorry, I remember like yesterday. And then bonk, I would just hit him. And so how do I say, when there's like school shootings and stuff like that, and you hear about kids being bullied, and yes, of course, it's 100% wrong. It's really wrong. I can understand it, though. I can really understand it. I had a moment in my life when I was 12, and I saw someone in a movie, a Tarzan movie or whatever it was. I get into a fight, they pick a fight at me, and I see a branch hanging from a tree. And I want to grab the branch and then swing like in the movies and kick him in the chest that I saw Batman do or whatever. And of course, the branch broke, I fell on the ground, and everybody's laughing. And I ran home, and our home was like a quarter mile away from the school. And I went to the kitchen, grabbed the kitchen knife, and started running back. And I remember my mom saw me on the street to the front window, and she started running after me. And she caught up to me, and she took the knife away. Until this day, I don't know what I would have done. But I was in such a state, I think I would have stabbed them. It was so I can understand. That's what I always say to these bullets. I say, watch out, because you're going to meet guys like me. Not like with the knife, but who's going to make a list, and they're going to say, oh, I'll get you. It takes a few years, but I'll be back at you. Don't worry about it. And then you have the worst situations. Bullying, there's still words that can trigger me to get angry. And we're talking 45 years or 40 years ago at least. You see what I mean? So, and I'm dealing with it. And it's because I worked with it, nothing happens. But words are everything. I'd rather have a beating than get name calling as a kid. It's the worst thing. So watch out, people. Stop bullying. It's an annoying thing.
Yeah. I agree. A lot of things pop through my head. I think of John Eldridge. I remember hearing him say, in order to turn the cheek, you have to know that you have a cheek to turn. And the point there was standing up for yourself. That ability to defend against yourself is so important, especially as us as men, providers and protectors. And trying to work towards that, and kind of focus our minds and thoughts towards that. That's it's interesting. Stop bullying. Yeah, I agree. And I can't imagine meeting you a couple of years later after some flippant comment and then suffering the wrath. Anyway, so I appreciate it.
What would you say to a kid who's getting bullied right now?
It's hard, the first thing I would say is that just know that these guys, their glory years are the years in school. Because most of the time, and it's just tested, these guys are not the brightest bulbs, so they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to be the guys with the bad jobs, and or they're not going to go anywhere. So just know that eventually your payback will come. It's very rare that a smart kid bullies. You see what I mean? Because they can understand situations. And what they also have to understand is, like, looking back on it, like the guy I knocked out the first time, I know it was a really bad family. His brother was in jail. He was like 17, but he was already in jail for robbery. And so they just came from a bad family. You don't know what's going on at home. If dad decides to hit mother all day long, then it becomes normal for them. Oh, this is how we solve a problem. You see? And so most of the time it's hard to say, but that's now because I got back to Catholicism. I go like, just think about the bully. You don't know what's going on at home for him as well. Now the best thing is, of course, if something happens, to just run away and get an adult. That's what you need to do. But unfortunately, all the kids see that as a weakness. Well, getting beat up, that's also a weakness. I wouldn't do that, because otherwise you're going to bring a weapon to school. What's a baseball bat or whatever it is. So, know that it's only 4 years. That's about it. and know that there's something going on with the bully, because nobody in the right state of mind would act like that. And get an adult, get somebody you trust. Maybe if you're in the family, you have a person like me, or a guy who does martial arts or whatever it is, and you can bring them. For me, if bullying happens here, I bring students. And if they're 15 or 17-year-old kids, I'll bring 12-year-old students. Oh, you want to go? Yeah, he's 12 years old. He's 4 years younger than you. Good luck. That's not going to work. You see what I mean? So I can always play that card, but thankfully I never had to play that card.
So that's great. I mean, I appreciate you sharing that. Now, you said when you were 14, and then did you just continue on this trajectory? What brought you from, because I believe in that article that Sam was referring to, you mentioned kind of falling away from the faith because your parents stopped practicing, when you were around 12. So the faith wasn't a big part of your life at this point, but going back to fighting and your career here, you started at 14, and then what got you into that next level? What got you into deciding to choose fighting as a career and pursuing that?
All pure luck, all pure God willing, God directing this whole thing. Never expect. I was a cook. I'm a chef, a French chef. That's my profession. I used to be modeling, but when I had hair, the complete opposite. But I always loved martial arts. So once I moved out first of all, when I knocked out the bully, my parents took me off of martial arts, because they always said it was violence. That they did. That's why it took me 2 years to convince them. And then this was the confirmation. Now, I never told my parents that I was bullied, since my mother had a lot of work with me. She had to put bandages around me every single day and cover and creams. I would rip that off in the middle of the night because it was itching. She had to do it again. I mean, this went on for years. Asthma attacks, a week in bed, have to do everything in bed, not able to eat because she can't breathe. This is not a little cough. No, this is 24/7 for 7-8 days straight, So there was a whole different level. So once I started growing out of it a little bit, and then I was 20 years old and I moved out of the house, that's when I immediately started going back to martial arts. But also in the years that were leading up to, now I had the taste, of course. Just now I watch Bruce Lee movies, I watch karate books, whatever, and I start learning from books. I start kicking the air. Everybody thought I was already a black belt because I could kick you in front of your face. I could hold my foot in front of your face because I just was practicing a lot. But I wasn't a fighter at all. But then at 20, I started training, and then it went really fast. I never had a yellow belt. I always skipped right away to orange in both Taekwondo, and I did this in karate as well. And then once I was doing karate, I realized it was not full contact. There was no punches to the face. So I wanted to do full contact. So like a year in there, I started doing Thai boxing on the side, started competing really fast, like within 3 months, winning a lot of fights by knockout also. So yeah, that's how it kind of started. And then I took a fight that I didn't even remember of taking because I was drunk when I took it. And there was the guy who was training in prison, Frank Lotman, the Animal, that was his nickname, and which is an undefeated guy, 43 fights, I think 39 or 38 knockouts, like an animal. And they asked me if I wanted to fight him because he was going to come out of prison. He needed a fighter. And I said, sure. But I had no clue. So they called me like months later, and they say, hey, when we do we send the posters to? I said, what posters? And they go, from the fight. I said, who's fighting? You. I go, me? Who am I fighting? Frank Lopez. I go, the Animal? They go, yeah. I go, when did I say that? He goes, well, on New Year's Eve. And I started thinking, and I go, oh yeah, I met the promoter, but I didn't train for 3 years. I was a bouncer. I worked at 5 o'clock in the morning. And that would mean at 5 o'clock, we're done. And then we go to the after parties. And you only know what's at the after parties, right? You got to stay awake. Let's do coke. Let's do drinking. Let's do women. Everything bad goes at these after parties. So I wasn't really nothing in shape. And I asked him, I said, when is the fight? And they go, I think it was less than 3 weeks. And I go, okay, I'll take it because I gave him my word. I'm a man of my word. Idiot. I should have never taken it. So unfortunately, it didn't go well for me. I lost that fight. But there's a whole bunch of reasons there. They said I got knocked out and never been knocked out. And you can actually see me talking while I'm talking to the corner. But it doesn't really matter. I always said, because at that moment, suddenly I became the worst fighter in Japan, in Holland. So they forgot about my 9 knockouts, 1 in the second round, the rest all in the first round. And suddenly I'm the worst guy there is. And I thought it was, that hurt me, that people were like that. So I said, I will never fight in Holland again. And then I met my wife in 92, and she looks at me really weird, and she tells me, hey, you're going to be a famous fighter in Japan. I go, what do you mean? She says, I said, I told you I'm not going to fight anymore. She said, yeah, but you said Holland. You're going to go to Japan. Oh, whatever, but that's a weird thing to say. And then a year later, contacted me. Somebody called me, and I had to do a tryout in Amsterdam. I wasn't doing martial arts. I just started Thai boxing again. And then I went to the tryout, and it was for a new organization called Pancrase, and they were scouting, and I got into a fight with one of the champions from their gym, and I knocked him out because he tried to knock me out. And that was it. They were pointing at me. And then 2-3 months later, I think I was in Japan fighting September 21st in 1993. This was before the UFC started. UFC started in November. We started in September there. And that was it, man. It was the wildest. Listen, we drive everywhere in Holland by car. We go to Paris, that's a 4-hour car ride. I'm in Vegas. So I never been on a plane. Now I'm suddenly 13 hours on the plane to Japan. And if you come from Holland, you go to Japan, it's like going from Holland to New York. I mean, everything is big. I mean, you have no clue what you're seeing. And then the Japanese people, such a nice people. I'm facing this Japanese guy. Funny story also. I didn't know anything about the rounds. I thought it were 5 rounds or 3 minutes, just like in Thai boxing.
Yeah.
And there were weight classes. And there was no weigh-in the day before, which I thought it was on. But I go, hey, I'm fighting a Japanese guy. They're known for being honest. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be in weight. So the next day I go over there, and this tall Japanese guy walks up to me, and he shakes my hand and says, oh, are you the promoter? He says, no, I'm fighting you today. I go, are you fighting me? He goes, what's your weight? And he goes, like, I was at 225 or so. It's like 35 pounds heavier than I was. And I go, okay. And then the promoter walked up, and I go to the promoter. Oh, you're the promoter? Yeah. I said, is he not too heavy? He says, no, Mr. Rutten, we fight everybody. There's no weight class. I go, oh, great. So I tried to force a smile. And then I asked him, how many rounds are we fighting? He goes, 1. I go, great. How many minutes? He goes, 30. I go, great. But I go, 30 minutes. This is crazy. Everything went well. I mean, I knocked him out with a beautiful high kick and a palm strike. And I need to show because he was taller than me, so it was perfect. And that's where the people, I mean, they embraced me. It was the wildest. They put a baby in my hand, a couple. I felt like the president there with the baby making pictures. And how would they, do that in Holland? You're going to need security to get out of the place if you're a foreigner, you beat up a nice guy. You see? So, that was wild. And the next day, walking on the street, and people start bowing at me, like 1 every 10 people or so, every 15 people, but they were bowing. I go, what is going on? And then I saw the newspaper, and on the cover was me hanging in the splits, which I didn't even remember doing because after the fight, I was so excited. It was 43 seconds. I just jumped in the splits to all the corners. I used to do that as a kid for fun, to show off. And somehow I did that after the fight, but I had no recollection of doing that. And you saw me hanging in the air with the opponent below me knocked out. And I go, okay. So that's how these people recognized me. And that was it.
Was that this?
That was that jump. Look at that. Yeah.
The iconic move. Yeah.
And then it started. That's when the career all took off.
Wow. That's incredible. So how many fights do you remember? How many fights you had in Pancrase?
I think 33, something like that.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was fast. And I was the striker, So I came in as a striker, but then losing by submission I got fed up. And my last loss was against Ken Shamrock by a knee bar, which is a leg lock. It's very painful. And that was it. I told myself, okay, it's either I'm going to change now or I'm going to quit. It's one of the two. But I never wanted to learn the ground. I thought it was for sissies. I was an idiot. But hey, then I start forcing myself. And then suddenly I realized all the possibilities and the power that you have. I mean, it's worse than striking. I mean, I can dislocate any joint in your body, and I can break pretty much any bone in your body. And not only me, every submission guy can do that. So that's a big power to have, So then I started combinations and the lead-ups and finding different setups, and I became obsessed with it. And my poor wife, I would wake her up in the middle of the night because I would dream a submission. I would wake her up, put her in that submission, ask her when it works. Oh, yeah. And this happened a bunch of times. Write it down next day to the class, and I would do it in class. It was the whole house was little Post-its and combinations. But, like anything else, you do something. Once you fall in love with it, you do it a lot. I start doing it 2-3 times a day. And that's it. I never lost a fight again. I actually, after my last submission loss, I won my next 8 fights by way of submission. They were like freaking out in Japan. They say, what's going on here? But I was just spending a lot of time on the ground. I forgot about striking. I just did the Thai pads for stamina. And for the sparring, I didn't even spar striking anymore. Nobody was going to stand with me anyway. I was just going to focus only on the ground. And it completely changed my career, made me who I was, who I am, and who I was and am. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So let's talk about fighting in general, because often it gets, it gets a very bad rap from people on any stripe, right? So you get the pacifists who just think it's never justifiable, even in the case of defense, right? But not even talking about them, just people who are listening to this and maybe have never really thought about the balance of fighting in general and the art form of it, or the sport that it is. And I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about that, kind of set the record straight about what fighting is and maybe what fighting is not with UFC and that which you were involved in.
Fighting is trying to find a flaw in your opponent's game, just like you do with chess, just like you're just testing each other's skills. We're both guys with the same skills who signed up, and I just believe that I'm better than you, and I'm going to see if I can catch you with something. And he does the same thing with me. There is zero violence going on. Actually, violence during fighting is the worst thing that you can have. Because that's emotions. Once you let your emotions go, you start loading punches up, you start telegraphing. You want to stay far away from that. Some fighters fight like that. Most of the time, those are not the champions. Very rarely. The animosity you see on TV, 95% is fake. I mean, they just hype it up. These guys love each other. I can go anywhere on the planet without buying a hotel. I just need a plane. I land somewhere because I know everybody now. And I say, hey, man, I'm over here. Can I sleep for a few nights at your place? I guarantee you they would allow me to go and stay a night in our home because it's such a camaraderie. We all went through the same thing. We all go through the injuries and the training and the food, and you can't do certain things. It's a freaking military style training, and you just respect the other person for that as well. So for us, it's literally like shooting hoops. It's the same thing for us. And especially, some guys, they lose control sometimes because they're not completely under control. But you never see, if I hit somebody, he's out, I won't even walk over there to give him another punch. My last fight, I had that with a low kick and he went down. And then the referee says, oh, fight. And I'm standing, I walked over, I think I'm going to choke him then. I'm not going to hit this guy because he was on his knees, So, but then they stopped the fight, you see. So real animosity is not there. We are literally just testing our skills and to see who's the best. And we get paid for it. What better way to have a life, right? For us, at least. From the outside, it looks really bad. I understand that also. Yeah. But to me, for the outside, is guys on a motorcycle who make 3 backflips. You see, I think that's dangerous compared to what we're doing. Climbing high buildings and doing all these crazy things and flying through very close to with a bat suit, out of a plane, you jump. And you see, that stuff, I think, is crazy and very dangerous. What we do is not dangerous because our opponent is right in front of us. And that's it. And he has the same skills as you. With good matchmaking, there will be not a problem. Yeah, if you are set up and you're a nobody and they put you against somebody who's like 20-0, that's a problem. But with good matchmaking, you'll never have that problem. So it looks worse than it is. And blood, I mean, this is much safer than boxing. First of all, they say the little gloves, but there's a lot of submissions involved as well. And just know that the hand, I always tell this for people who don't understand martial arts, the boxing glove is invented to protect the hand. It's not invented to protect your head. Because now it's way worse. Bare knuckle boxing is actually more healthy for the brain, for CTE-wise, than boxing with gloves. Because boxing with gloves, you can hit somebody as hard as you want. You're not going to break your hand. Try to hit somebody with these little tiny bullets. If you hit in my face, I just do this, and I catch you on my forehead, your hand's gone. That's it. You just lost the fight. So bare knuckle boxing, you see these guys a lot go to the body, and they take it easy on their hand, on the hand, because otherwise they break their hand and the next fight they can't fight because they broke their hand. You see, so there's a whole misconception from people. Once you break everything down, it's really not that bad. And a little cut, I'd rather have that than I have a concussion. You see what I mean? And that's what bare knuckle boxing. Yeah, you bleed a lot, but once you wipe the cut, you see how many times you see a person going back to the corner full of blood, and then they wipe, boop, 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 and you don't see anything. It's just a little cut, and your heart rate is 150, 160 beats a minute. Yeah, it's going to come out. Of course it's going to come out, but it doesn't do anything to the brain. It just looks bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not nearly as barbaric as all these people like to think. It's very controlled. Referees are there all the time. Yeah. I'm wondering too, like, you have a pretty long career spanning a lot of years. Do you have like a favorite fight, or like a fight that was especially difficult for you, but it was really awesome when you finished it, or what? Just some highlights from your own perspective as a fighter.
Yeah. Okay. The first fight that I ever had with the bully, that one sticks out with me because it was one punch and it surrounded me with kids, and they don't, so I couldn't run away. And then just one punch, he broke his nose in the process, and he was out. And I was like, that was a big thing for me. It was almost better than winning any world title, because that was the moment I stepped up for myself. Then I said, okay, no more, because they were shouting at me profanity, whatever. Hey, leper, watch out, your hands don't fall off or your ears don't fall off. There's something like that they would always shout. And I shouted something back. And then I saw that we were on a bicycle. They started to chase me. And I go, this is it. So I put my bike on the stand. And I said, I'm just going to wait for it. And then they surrounded me with their bikes. And then this whole thing happened. And I knocked them out. And that was, it was the first time I stood up for myself. So that's a big one for me. Yeah. Then I had a rematch against, my first loss in Japan was against Funaki Mazukatsu. And he got me in a toe hold. Now, don't let that name fool you. It's not like this is the toe and you grab the hold. No. Okay. I saw somebody break his shin bone with a toe hold. So it's a very gnarly move. So I didn't know what it was, because I was early in my career. I knew it hurt, but I didn't know what it was. And then many years later, when I started doing my ground game, I got so much better. I became a champion, and then I had a rematch against him. And that fight is considered one of the best fights I ever had, and for him as well. For him, it didn't go well because I almost let my emotions go. He was a very respectful guy, but somehow I think he hyped the fight, but he did it the wrong way. He comes to me in the corner before the fight, in front of everybody, and he's standing this far away, and he does this to me. And I look at my man and say, oh, I'm going to kill this guy now. I mean, this is insane. He says, you got to stay calm. I said, don't worry, I'll stay calm. I said, but you watch. Once I hit him and he's dizzy, I will go to town. You watch. And that's exactly what happened. During the fight, suddenly I connected. He did an illegal move. I was sitting on my knees and he kicked me in the face. I blocked it. And my game plan was going to be, because this guy never fought more than 15 minutes. A 6.5-hour fight. I thought, because every 5 minutes they announce, I always do something to mess with your mind. They announce 5 minutes past, 10 minutes past, 15 minutes past. I thought that if I just don't do anything and hold him off for 15 minutes, and then he hears suddenly the voice saying, hey, 15 minutes past, he's going to realize he's never been in that situation yet. Maybe that's going to do something to his psyche. I always try to find weird ways to just throw somebody off a little bit. But then around 12 minutes, I was sitting on my knees and he kicked me in the face, but I blocked it. But it pissed me off, because it was an illegal move. So I got up and I knock him out and he falls down. And in Pancras, the organization in Japan, there were 8 counts. So I drop him, he gets an 8 count. Then he comes, he shoots in again. I sprawl and he rolls on his back. And then I did something I never did before, because he was on his back and I hit him in his face, which normally was kind of a gentleman rule not to do. But I still, like I said, I was angry. And that's where it's no show. So already flat on his face, and they come in and they start checking him. And then the guy kept on coming. I mean, I knocked him down 4 times, and I was getting tired now. And then the final one, because every time when he would go down, the whole audience would go, Funaki, and then he would get up again. And I go, shut up. Then the final one was that I grabbed him by the hair. He had a lot of hair, and I grabbed him by the hair, and I kneed him in the face as hard as I could. That was it. He was out, and that was it. So for me, they always say that was my best fight, but for him as well, because I have no clue how he kept standing. I mean, I remember I was bruised on my palms from the hitting. My knees had bruises on them from kneeing him in the face. I mean, it was insanity. His nose was flat on his face. He broke both cheekbones. I mean, he kept coming back. It was the wildest thing. So that was a tough one. And then the last one I would say was Kevin Randleman, who became later a friend of mine. I actually inducted him into the UFC Hall of Fame 2 weeks ago. He unfortunately passed away to a pneumonia. Very sad story. But his wife was very gorgeous, because I stayed in contact with her, and he became good friends. But what happened was the first 4 minutes, he's a really great wrestler. He took me down and he completely smashed my face. And, I mean, my nose is broken. But they allowed me to continue. They asked me if I would continue. I said, your nose is broken. I go, there was a funny story real fast because John McCarthy, the big referee, he puts it in his book. So I never believed nose bone into the brain. It's a myth, But then somebody told me on the day of the fight or the day before, I don't remember anybody. They said, yeah, boss, you're right. But if the nose is already broke and then they hit it, then it might go into your brain. And I go, okay, whatever. But then I'm in the fight and my nose is broke. And they said, do you want to continue? And I look at John McCarthy. I said, do you believe that stuff? And the nose bone into the brain? And he goes, no. I go, okay, have it. I'll fight. So then I kept fighting. And then I slowly but surely started taking the fight over. And I won by split decision. It was a very close fight. But the way he bashed my head in, and he was such a freak athlete, such a strong guy. I never felt any strength like that. I mean, he got in a car accident. He flew out of his window and his SUV landed on him. And he lit on the engine part. He just pushed it off. And his whole head was open. He walked away. I mean, I'd say he had a staph infection. When you talk about snus, the tobacco, that overhaul. If I would, you could have put that in his chest, and if you put a shirt on it, you could not see it. That's you just Google it. Kevin Redelman staph infection. You have no clue what you're going to see. I mean, he survived everything, and then he dies of pneumonia. You see, so that was very hard. But that was a tough fight because I lost the contact lens. And I had -5.5, so it's really bad eyesight. Like that means I have to fight with contacts because I can't see where you're looking because that's how blind I was, And then that contact I lost, the other eye filled up with blood. I was swallowing my own blood. I got nausea in the corner. I tried to put my fingers in my throat to throw out the blood. So that was very annoying while you're fighting, swallowing your own blood the whole time.
Yeah.
I don't think we can quite imagine that. Things I've never experienced, likely never will. So.
Yeah, it's a different thing.
Yeah, for sure. Gear shift. What does a fighter have to say about keeping the peace, about maintaining peace and peace in your life and peace around others? It's just something that hearing you talk just felt inspired to ask you, because I know we want to spend a lot of time talking about your faith and how your faith has transformed you. But I thought it'd be a good start just talking about peace in general and how you maintain that internally and how you maintain that externally.
It's it's a daily struggle. It's a daily work, to completely be peaceful, right? To not get aggravated by stupid stuff, not like you want to fight. That kind of anger should never be there. 5 times in your life, that you're really angry and throw things. That's stupid. That's letting your emotions control yourself. Once I get back to the faith, I realized, okay, we gotta, the computer, the irascible appetizer, how everything works. The senses coming in, the cogitative power, and how you send it over. I mean, all that stuff. Once you start learning about it, you kind of figure out how to stop it immediately. And that's what the senses. When the senses come in, that's where you stop things like the pornography or whatever. You click on the picture, right? Oh, girl in a bikini. You should see what she looks like now. Oh, we're freaking high guys. Click. We're on there. So, but once I start cleaning up that stuff, because it's stuff that you don't need. It's stuff that is not going to make you smarter or mentally stronger, and it certainly is not going to steer you towards God, And I always ask myself now, before I do something or click on something or say something, I say, is this what I'm about to do? Is going to make me mentally stronger or smarter? And for me, it's also bring me closer to God, right? That should officially be the first one. But if you keep it under our life stage, if it doesn't make you smarter and mentally stronger, why would you do it? What do you gain? I was doing a class, a streaming class when the COVID broke out. And I did it with a student of mine, a female student, so that people around the world, because nobody could go to a gym, and then we could still work out, they could train with us. We did it in the morning, so that's good for Europe as well, in the evening. And then a lady with me, because they could make sure that all the other ladies see, hey, she can do it, so I can do it. So we pulled both people in. And then on a Saturday, we'll do Q&A. And one of the questions, she's writing down the question. Suddenly I see her looking weird, and I'm looking at the screen, and this guy asks, hey, what color panties are you wearing? And she's asking her. And so I read that question out loud. I go, so I asked him, I said, what would you gain by having that information? Let's say she says red. Now what did you gain? Did you get smarter? Did you get mentally stronger? What? Give me one thing that you gain by it. And there is nothing. The only thing that can is like a stupid thing. Maybe you're going to use it for masturbation or something, but it's never good. right? So, and that sets people to think, because, and if you really trade your life like that now, and I try to catch as many as I can. I'm just saying that before, and everything most of the time, it's all in the head. I always been about peace, even before the faith. I was a bouncer. I was very well known because they wanted me as a bouncer, not because I could fight. That was great to have, but I'm good with people. From the 10 situations, normally 9 times is a fight. With me, maybe 1 time, because I just break things down. I go, hey, why do you do? Oh, you looked at my wife. He looked at your wife. Did you talk to her? No. Okay, did he say anything? Make you vulgar moment? Did you do anything? No. I said, dude, that's a compliment. I mean, imagine he looks at your wife and he goes, oh, he does that. You like that? He goes, yeah, kind of well. I said, dude, if he overstepped his boundaries, yeah, you can be angry. And he go, yeah, stupid. And then I will give them both a beer or whatever they would drink. And then shake hands and we go again. You see, and I've always been like that. And the rule from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Now, I don't consider my great power, but on the street, I do. You know, if it is a fight hand-to-hand, chances you're going to win is going to be very low. And it's not to stick a feather on my butt. Every professional fighter, Amanda Nunes, the world champion, I think she will tore through two guys. They have no chance. So the ladies are also very dangerous. So everybody can do this. But, you know, there's one in how many? 10,000 really doing professional fighting? You know, if you meet a professional fighter. So if you just live like that, you know, and you be a good person inside and out, and thankfully I've always been that. That's why it's so unfortunate for me with John Jones to see these things happening. And I know it's alcohol, you know, that's personality, although alcohol intensifies certain things. You know, I think you're only a world champion if you got your life under control in and outside the cage or the ring, wherever you're fighting. I think you should be an example. Whatever you receive as a gift, you have to give as a gift, right? That's what the Bible says. We have to do that. And why be angry? Why not show the people that were completely different? They were good people, you know, like the things with Conor McGregor now, certain things, you know, I've always been defending him, but there's certain things I can't defend anymore, you know. Once you start attacking the wife, and I go, sorry, I'm out, dude. Hey, listen, still a big fan, but I'm not going to defend that. I can't defend it anymore. It's just wrong. And he knows it's wrong, you know, but that's a very rare occasion. And that's giving somebody $300 million at 30 years of age. I mean, I would have been completely out of control if I had that money when I was that. You see, so it's easy for us to point fingers at people and to say, oh, you shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that. Look at yourself. Well, cast the first stone, right? That's literally what people should think, because we're all make mistakes, just on different levels, but it's all mistakes. A big line that I always use is like, doing a small good thing is still doing good. Doing a small evil thing is still doing evil. Just think like that. So it doesn't matter what you do. If it's a little tiny thing, I only stole $1, it's still evil. It's not good. Small good thing is always good. So why don't you lean to that side, you know, because then you're always happy.
Yeah, build yourself up, and build others up around you. I mean, and it's funny because we're mentioning Conor McGregor, and I don't want to pick on him exclusively, but I will say too that it's hurt his performance in the ring. Even, you know, like even if he hadn't, even if there were no negative consequences in his life otherwise, like he's lost his focus kind of as an athlete, like in that respect, and unfortunately, it's had consequences for his game. And
no, that's literally the devil. That's money. You know, once you start people overflowing have money, you buy a plane, you buy a yacht, or you buy things, you don't have to do anything. Hey, make me a sandwich. And they make a sandwich, they got to cook it at home. You know, you don't have to do anything anymore. That is not a fighter. You didn't get there like that. You were a bricklayer. That's what your profession was before. You were training hard. You got to go Rocky style. Go to Russia, you know, and go train there with some crazy freaking guys. Get you and make your own sandwich. Get your own stuff. Do everything yourself. Go back to your roots. That's what you need to do. Yeah. I mean, who said it? It's very hard to become a world champion, to stay a world champion when you sleep in silk sheets and wear silk underwear. I mean, some famous fighter said that one time, and it's 100% true. It becomes too easy. Fighting is not easy. You need the suffering, guys. Suffering comes making everything. But the suffering, we should suffer for the things that get us in heaven. But we all suffer for the things that we want to pursue here on earth. It's the wildest thing if you think about it. You know, so hopefully that's going to change.
Yeah. Well, and I'd love to hear you comment too on you've done training for years and years and years. What would you say to guys who are like they're trying to change their life, whether that's working out more, whether that's eating better, whether that's getting up earlier in the morning, just trying to improve themselves in those concrete ways. And yet they find that they'll maybe do it for a week or two and they fall off the bandwagon or whatever. And they find it a struggle to motivate themselves to do those hard things, to kind of inflict that suffering. Like maybe at first they get all excited and they can give them enough juice for a couple of weeks of this, but then they fall off the bandwagon. Like, what would you say to somebody who struggles with that motivation, that drive to discipline themselves?
It's effeminate. People have become effeminate. There's an attachment to pleasure, unwillingness to suffer. That's what literally the attachment is for effeminate. And that's what Thomas Aquinas at least said, and he's smarter than I can tell you that. So you got to tell yourself, this is what I always say to myself. When you tell yourself, so now let's take God out of the equation. The next person in line who's the most important person in the world is you. You can never lie to yourself. You should never lie to yourself, because the more you lie to yourself, the weaker you become. That's how vices work. You know what they say? They say, I suffer because I sin. I go, that's completely backwards. No, you sin because you don't want to suffer. That's what the real reason is. That's what, I want to drink something, saying no to these drinks, that is suffering for you at that moment. That's how you get stronger. And I had the same reaction as you, because I had Scott Hahn. I was in his class at the Franciscan University of Steubenville, and he dropped that line. I go, dude, that's everything. So I have that in my thoughts now, because it's a big one, because we all suffer for the things that we want to pursue here on earth, but not to gain eternal happiness. So saying no to a lot of things, we do it again. We do it for that kind of stuff. But the more you say no, the stronger you get. And the easier it becomes to say no. The more you give in, the weaker you become. So that's a vice. Vice makes you weaker. Virtue makes you stronger, right? Virtue, building up good habits. Now, my whole life is, before the faith, was already around good habits. I'm very good. Like in 2015, May 2015, I started doing a daily rosary. How many times have you missed, Bas? None. Okay, in the morning I wake up, I do my stretching routines and prayers, everything, like an hour, 15 minutes every morning. How many times you missed? None. Once I have a habit, I'm not going to break the habit. The stretching, maybe, I might leave out one time because I have an injury and I can't do it. Or for the rest, I will always do it. And once you break a habit, then the next time when you break a habit again, it becomes a normal thing. It's very easy, because it goes both ways. The way I explain it to people is like, I do these talks for these kids when they go from high school to college or university or wherever they go, or to their job, and what kind of to expect. And the first thing I always say is, who woke up this morning, hit the alarm clock, hit the snooze button, 10 minutes later, hit the snooze button, 10 minutes, hit the snooze button, and they did it like six times in a row. And 95% of the hands go up. I said, that's a bad habit. And it's a very stupid habit too. I mean, that last hour, you didn't really sleep anymore. You wake up and feel, it's a stupid thing. Smart thing would be to set an alarm clock an hour later and tell yourself before you go to sleep, and here we go, and you should be the most important person in the world. If you treat yourself like you don't lie to yourself, you better do what you say. That's how I train myself. If I say today I'm going to do 12 rounds on the back, I will do 12 rounds on the back, whatever it takes, because I told myself, and otherwise in the evening, I can look at myself in the mirror because I see a loser who didn't do what he said he was going to do. And that's with these people also. You tell yourself before you go to sleep, tomorrow morning, the way the alarm clock goes, I sit up and just walk out of bed. And sure, that might be hard the first time, second time, third time, and suddenly after 4 or 5 times, it becomes normal. A week, 2 weeks in, it's normal. You switch the bad habit into a good habit. But as you can attain a good habit, you can also lose it again. Maybe you don't do it one time, and then you do the second time, or maybe 2 times in a row. You see, that's addiction. That's how drinking works, right?
That's right.
Many times I have a drinking problem. I simply don't drink. But I know that if I, for instance, this weekend I would drink 1 beer, then next weekend I say, I can do another beer because it worked last weekend. And then the third time or fourth time, I get 2 beers. And then I feel a little buzz, and then I say, but I had it under control last week. So you see, and that's when the third beer comes, and boom, you fall into drinking again. That's how it goes. That's how it goes with everything in life. It's just simple saying no will make you stronger, because again, there we go. If I say no to the alcohol, it makes me stronger. And knowing myself that it will make me stronger, I rather say no. And especially me, because now I'm very devout. So if I drink too much, and thankfully this last year, my birthday in February, so I don't, but I go to confession. And since I already confessed that sin a bunch of times, I don't like to go to confession and to confess that sin. It's a stupid thing to do. So I don't want to do it. So if I tell myself, well, I'm going to suffer anyway, whether it's I'm going to confess or I'm going to wake up with a hangover, whatever it is, you're going to suffer anyway. But saying no from all these choices is going to make me stronger. Then I rather say no. And that's how I treat pretty much everything.
I love that. That is so great.
I do too.
Yeah. Good. I've been a lot of brainstorming to get in this crazy mind of me to change me from all my craziness. I got ADHD. I mean, you have no clue what goes on. It's very hard for me to focus, and I just have to drill. I have to memorize things every single day. I keep my mind constantly busy because otherwise I'm all over the place.
Yeah. Well, can we talk a little bit about your reversion to the faith? I think you've mentioned, praying the rosary every day. I know that you pray in Latin. Also, I've in different interviews of yours or commentaries, Father Ripperger and Kevin James, and these individuals helped you. We'd love to hear your story just directly from you about what brought you back to the faith and how it's become so much a pivotal part of your life.
Okay, so I got to backtrack a little bit. There's a few things that happened in my life. First of all, I was taking insane amounts of medication when I was a kid. I remember 45 pills a day, 3 times 15. That's for my asthma and for my eczema, for everything. I take a lot of bad stuff, cortisone. Yeah. And it affected my memory. And we found that out because I had to go to a school. It was the lowest school ever. And then I realized, it was the medication. We stopped the medication. And then a year later, I did it again. I went to the highest school. So it was like a complete difference. But anyway, I don't remember a lot before I was 12 years old. But there's one thing that always stuck out with me. And it was when I was 10 years old, and I was sitting in the class in 4th grade in Holland, that is. And I was staring outside the window and looking at a tree. And I can till this day, you can bring me to that school. I know what the chair was and what tree it was. I know everything still. And I've never been back there. But it's very vivid in my mind. And I remember the teachers trying to get a hold of me. And because I heard the class laugh, and Rutten, and suddenly he's screaming, Rutten, I go, what? And he goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm looking at that tree. He said, what about that tree? I said, where does it come from? And he goes, like, they planted it there, idiot. And I go, yeah, I understand that. But, the tree before, the tree before, the tree before, if you go back, where do trees come from? And of course, you looked at me like I was going to be an idiot. But that was a weird thing. That was like literally God planting a seed in my head. Don't worry about it. If like about 40 years from now, we'll come back. Something like that, right? Yeah. So then in 2006, I was drinking heavy. And that's when actually I took another fight after 7 years of not competing, because I realized if I took the fight, it would force me to stop drinking. And thankfully that worked out. But just before that, I was just drinking a lot. And I'm a happy drunk. Yeah, I'm dancing with the kids, I'm doing kids, but still, being a happy drunk, you're drunk. You're not a father, you're not a husband, you're not a good person, you're not a good guy. You have to get yourself under control. Temperance, I never had that. And I think there was a spirit in the home there, a woman who passed away. And I think she had it out on me later on. When I look back on it, it was because I was the one who was drinking. And she said, hey, listen, you're an idiot because you have a family here. Stop the stupid drinking. And she would attack me in the middle of the night in my bed. And it would be go, boop, I would wake up and then I could look around and there was nothing, but something was holding me down. And I tried to look right. I could see because I couldn't move. I only could move my face and I could see and I could smell. I could do all these things, but I could not move. And the only way to get out of it was getting mentally very aggressive. And then just mind over matter. And then I was out again because otherwise I would suffocate. It felt like I couldn't breathe anymore. So that's how heavy it was. And that happened a whole bunch of times. And I went to the restroom one time and I'm sitting and I see my wife passing because I always sit because I have to turn the light on if I have to pee, so it's easier. I can sit there, I can still in the sleep. And I see my wife walking. So I think, she's going to get a water at the kitchen. And then when I went to bed, my wife was in the bed. So I remember taking the gun, go to the house and there's nobody in the house. Then the big one came, I came home around 9:30 at night. And I told my family, when I opened the door, I felt somebody was in the house. And I said, just stay here, get your phone out, dial 911, don't press send yet. If you hear something, just press. I said, but don't worry, because I know where everything is. I will be okay. I said, but then just don't come in. And I walked into the house, and there was an open kitchen on one side, and there was a dining area here, and there was a wall in the middle. And in the back, there was the kitchen. And the kitchen had an entrance to the dining area. And in front of the dining area, instead of a door, there would hang a thick curtain in the doorpost. Now, I thought that person was on this side of the wall that we had. So I start walking here, making a lot of noise, hoping that he would do this, and then I make a U-turn. I got him, you know? So I start doing that, and suddenly I started sprinting, and I come around the corner, and that curtain, the big curtain, flies up against the ceiling. So somebody ran through it, right? So I kept sprinting, but there's nobody in the home. And I was like, it was not moving. It was whoop, up against the wall, against the ceiling. So that was a big thing. Then I started challenging this ghost at 3 a.m. at night. I had no clue. I wasn't in the faith. At 3 p.m. was when Jesus passed, and 3 a.m. is when the demonic activity is the highest. But somehow I knew. And I was standing there at that spot where the dining room area was, because it was always cold there, and it was a weird smell. And I just challenged it there for 45 minutes. Father Ripke later told me you shouldn't have done it, but only you, Bas. He said, you can do it. And it worked, you know. She didn't come back. Then we moved from that house, we moved to this house because I just fought, made some money, and I wanted a house with a pool. And it was like literally a quarter mile of the street. And the first night went, and I asked my daughters how it was. And my oldest daughter, she slept upstairs. I said, how was it upstairs? And she said, oh, nice. I said, I just had a visit from 2 kids. I go, whoa, what do you mean? Spirits? And she goes, yeah. What do you mean? Boys, girls? She said, boys, 2 boys. I said, what age? 16, 17 years old. I go, you're not freaking out? She says, no, they were nice. And I just asked them to leave me alone. One kept playing and pushing on the bed the whole time. But after I told them that I wanted to go to sleep, he let me alone. So I'm looking at my wife. I go like, this is crazy. So I go to the computer and I hit if something ever happened in my house. And the first link comes up in 2001, Christmas, 4 kids, a girl and 3 boys. They lost control here and they drove through my wall. And I'm walking outside, I see where they repaired the wall. And from the 4 kids, 2 died, 2 boys, 16 and 17 years old. So all these things are happening with me. The attack and the curtain flying and the person seen walking, and my whole family saw the person, could know what she described, what she looked like. And then this on top of it. So that was all happening. And then in 2014, excuse me, I was doing a movie on the set. There's this guy, Leo Severino, came. And he's a very good theologian, a very smart guy. He's like the right-hand man of Father Ripke. They're really good friends. And he and a friend of mine said, hey, why don't you sit in on, he's going to do a conference, like a 30-minute talk. We're sitting outside there at the Wynn Hotel. We're in a cabana with an air conditioning. You can smoke a cigar, drink a Coke. Why wouldn't you? I go, sure, I sit in. And then Leo came in and he started talking about the leaf fell from the tree. He says, that leaf just reached its end destination. He says, let's go backtrack that leaf. And it goes back to the branch and it goes back to the tree before, the tree before, the tree before. And I'm sitting there and I go, I know this story from Stammer. You know, and then I realized that not at that moment, that was when I was 10 years old, the tree before, the tree before. So when Leo started backtracking and then getting eventually to a solid proof of the very existence of God, that was it for me. Now I knew, okay, this is not an accident. This is not one cell. Somebody designed this, you know, and once you are there, somebody designed this, well, then God is an easy step, right? Yeah. So that's how it started. That's how I got back. And then my wife got in and it was, everything just started falling together.
Oh, that's
wow. that is an interesting story. So ghosts played a role in your conversion. That is a unique conversion story. You should tell that one on EWTN.
Dude, and it was very scary. It was very scary. Yeah. It was so scary that I challenged it because I didn't want it anymore. Because also when it would attack me, and then I was gone. I go, okay, I'm going to go to sleep now. Do it again. Now I want you to come back in because now I'm going to be ready for you. I thought she did it at the moment that I was the weakest. You know, and I go like, give me a chance, give me a chance. Yeah. So that's why I challenged it also. Bring it down to my level, make it physical. You know, I would love to fight you. If you have the balls, you know, I started really talking like that. I was so aggressive. Wow. The sucker punching crap you're doing, you know. Yeah. I needed to get out of there.
So what did that do for your faith? I mean, like, so you're a guy who's not practicing any kind of faith at that point. Like, what did that kind of tell you about, like how did that impact you in your journey to faith?
Well, you know, if you know there's that evil, you know there's that good, then everything has to be right. Yeah. And so I knew right away that if I would have said at that moment maybe simply Jesus, it would have been gone. You see, but I didn't know at the time. So once you see the other side and feel the other side and literally physically see things moving, it's, you realize this is not it, guys. This life is not it. I mean, if you really think about it, it's like, and it's hard. I'm always telling people, we all care. We were just talking about the things on ourselves, money, fame, looking good, whatever it is. We focus on that, but we don't focus for eternal happiness in heaven. And the only reason it can be is because we don't believe heaven is real. That can be the only reason. Because if you wake up, I always say this, imagine you wake up and boom, Jesus stands in your room and he says, hey, boss, remember, don't go there. And he shows hell like Lady Fatima did, right? Yeah. But you want to go there, boom. You think there will be any violence in the world? 100% guarantee everybody would stop. Nobody wants to go there, you see? But to have that faith, why do you think, I always say to people, why do you think it's in the Bible? Why does he say a mustard seed size of faith would move? Yeah. You can move mountains. I'm looking at this. The apostles, they saw him walk on water. They saw him feed people, thousands of people with a few loaves of fishes. Then when it was the second time needed, they didn't even remember the first time. Walking on water, raising people, 3 people from the dead, cure the lepers, the sea, the blind, everything. He does everything. Then he has 70 disciples, 70. He sends them out in the world, go heal any diseases. They come back like, wow, this is crazy. We were also able to drive out demons. Then they see him for 40 days after he's been crucified and died, and they still didn't believe it. Think about that. That's when the Holy Spirit jumped in, and that's he says, okay, bam, slapping him around. Let's wake up and let's get some here, speak some languages, start evangelizing. And that's when okay, now we got it. But I mean, all that had to happen in order for them to believe. Well, they see him cure people, walk on water. We didn't see that. Yeah. I'm very fortunate because I've been physically attacked and I see these things. So for me, it's much easier because I know it's there. It happened to me. You see, so. Yeah, that's what people have to think. We all have our doubts. Trust me. We all have our doubts. And that's how it works, And everything is hard. And even praying and doing every single day, that's suffering sometimes. Sometimes on days that you don't have the time. I have to wake up. If I go to Europe, well, the whole thing messes you up. It's 9 hours ahead. I mean, so nighttime is daytime for me. It's a freaking nightmare. But I'm still waking up an hour and a half before to go through my entire routine that I always do. You see, sometimes that's suffering. But you do it. Just keep doing it. Building a good habit. Yeah,
absolutely. So do you find that you're able to evangelize a little bit in the UFC now that you've had this huge conversion? I mean, I know that it was kind of past your glory time as a fighter, but you're still a coach and you're still, actively involved. You just mentioned a few weeks ago, bringing your, close friend into the UFC Hall of Fame. Do you feel like your example, or do you actually get to have conversations with other men about your faith?
I think there's a lot of fighters have the faith. A lot of Christians, at least. Stipe Miocic comes up with a rosary. Tyson Fury comes up with a big rosary. He's very devout Catholic as well. Yeah. Because that saved his life. He was on a path to destruction, and look at him now. I mean, he became a world champion. He's probably one of the best boxers there is now. I mean, so yeah, there was a lot of people. Vito Belfort, Chris Weidman. I mean, there's a lot of Christians out there who are promoting it. What I really liked with Rose Namajunas when she fought Joanna Jędrzejczyk and she was staring it down, and then later on she was mumbling something, Rose, and they asked what she was doing. She was doing the Lord's Prayer while this girl was trying to intimidate her. She was just helping our Father God. I mean, so I think more and more people, because as a fighter you also realize we all have egos, but you're not the one in control. There's nothing you can do without him. And once you realize that, if I look back on my life and the moments I wanted to quit in the fight, and then this voice talking to me, no, just keep hanging in there. It's going to be okay. And I always thankfully listen to the quiet voice, not to the guy who goes, knock him out now. There's this really annoying guy, and there's the guy who calms, But everything, accidents I had and the way I survived accidents, I get insanity, like flying over a crash barrier, no roof, no seatbelt, staying in the car. How is that possible? Missing every tree on the way down, upside down in the water. My friend, while he flew through the car, I put him in my guard. I mean, how is that going slow motion? I mean, upside down in the water comes in. My friend is knocked out. I have to kick the windows out, pull him out, water. I mean, I had a scratch. I had nothing. People came running down and said, how is this possible? You see, and I have a bunch of those examples that you go like, man, there had to be invention. Something had to happen there, that made sure that I was okay. It was not my time yet. That's what I believe. And now I better use this time, and it's if we can get people in there. But the thing that I don't want to be that person, on the street and quoting Bible verses and doing all that stuff, because it steers people away, because it makes you look like you're crazy. The big ones, I know, like, when people say, oh, but in my talks, I talk about a gun. If you can't have physical skills, you need a gun to protect your family. That's what a guy should do. But it's not in the Bible. It's actually in the Bible. Yeah, not a gun. But, Luke 22:36, you see those quotes, I remember. Let him who has no sword sell his mantle and buy one. Why would you say, why do you think it's in the Bible? Because you have to protect your family. That's what the real man does. You're not playing with Play-Doh, or not petting ponies or hugging trees. No, face your freaking problems. And make sure you're ready for everything out there. But unfortunately, everything is becoming effeminate. We can't handle resistance anymore. Yeah. Absolutely not. We just, that's why when you ask, how it's people, they build up a habit, but then they do it for like a week and then it's gone again. You just have to do it. I have this lung training device that I invented, right? That trains your breathing muscles. Works really well. I started doing that in May 2018. And I might have missed like 40 times or 30 times due to traveling. And that's something, because it's not mental and everything. But for the rest, I've been doing it every single day, and it's just building a habit. Now, these people, because it takes 4 minutes a day, it will cure you from your asthma, your COPD. It will take it 70% away or more. You can read every review, and they all say the same thing. But you have to do it every day. It takes about 4 minutes. 4 minutes, I can do it. Everybody hooks off within a week, because that 4 minutes already becomes too much, because it's a workout. You're working out your breathing muscles. You might sweat from it because it's a hard work. There's people buying it now for their abs who could never get abs, and now they're suddenly getting abs. You see, but 4 minutes, and you can bulk it up. I said, why don't you do it for 1 month straight? And now I'm saying, the people for asthma and COPD, if you buy it for asthma or COPD and you do it 1 month, and I'm going to need to see the videos, you're doing it every day, like time lapses, because otherwise you're going to tell me you did it, but you didn't do it. Because I know, because if you do it, it's going to be 70% or gone or more gone. And if not, I'm going to give you your money back. That's my guarantee. But I need to see it. Nobody has held me up on that offer. Nobody yet. And I'm saying it all the time. Now, the guys who are doing it, all of them, their asthma is gone. Always anxiety, COPD. I mean, it's just building a habit.
Amen.
Yeah, the discipline that you've brought to a lot of these habits that you keep talking about. As you mentioned, Thomas Aquinas talks about how habits are really what create virtue, and obviously your training as a fighter has taught you the discipline that can really translate to these spiritual disciplines. But I'm just wondering, is there any other way your career as a fighter, you've been in some movies, things like that, has any of the things that you've learned from these kind of things that you've done for a living translated to your faith, or vice versa? Has your faith translated to the way you approach these other things that you do in life?
Yeah, everything started with me with being sick in bed. That's where I get my habits from. Being in bed, and I need to go down a flight of stairs to go to the restroom. So if I want to go to the restroom, well, that's going to take us 45 minutes. If an asthma attack, I'm going to be ready, get ready now. And I had to prepare mentally, but I had to do it because I have to go to the restroom. You see, so you're just forced to do certain things. Now I realize, going back, it's all been given to me for a reason. That's why I had it. That's why I had these adversities. That's why it's so easy for me to have habits, because I was building those habits as a kid already. And then I translated that to fighting. Hey, here works this transfer. And then when the faith came, better believe I went to that. I go crazy. Like my wife, she started laughing when I came back and I said, I want to go back to the faith. And she goes, whatever, because she knows I'm ADHD. That's 6 weeks max, and then it's over. But she saw me keep more. I was doing more and more and more. And she saw me change. Then I asked her if she wanted to marry for the church. The third time we were going to get married, this time for the Catholic Church. And then another great thing, Graham, because she always said that, oh, I don't need to go to church. I'm a good person. I'll go to heaven. That was her take. And the day I mentioned, it was on a Sunday that I wanted to go marry her again for the church. The next day I couldn't get a hold of her. And when she called me back, I said, where were you? And she was at daily mass. I go, what do you mean? Yeah, you want to get married, right? I just signed up for RCIA classes, she said, because I was baptized, but I didn't do my confirmation. I mean, what had all conversations for me, it was immediately accepted by her. And she started following the faith. And now we're both in it. So it's really amazing. I just really lucked out in that area as well. So yeah, everything started with my diseases and I brought it over to fighting. And I just have that same military style routine with habits that I don't break. And I apply that to the faith. I apply that actually to everything. Yeah. Everything that I do, everything that I can do now, I do now. If I'm 3 weeks, I have a commentating job with fighters. Most of the time, if I have the schedule now from all the fighters, tomorrow that will already be prepared. Because I don't know what's going to happen in those 3 weeks. Maybe something's going to come up, something bad's going to happen. I got to figure it out. If I can make it now already, have the time for it, why don't I do it now? See, those are habits that I created and I live by, and they always help me. So once they keep helping, stay helping, I just keep doing it.
I love it that kind of that disability in your childhood ended up making you so much stronger. Like, I know a lot of people who have, like they're weak as a child or whatever, had some childhood illness. A lot of people use that as an excuse to sit on the sidelines or just kind of check out of life. Well, I have this or I have that.
Yeah, so pathetic.
So I can't,
Yeah.
That strength of will sounds like it's really like powered you through your whole life, is starting when you were very young until now.
So easy to point people, like a close person that I know is an addiction. Used to be heroin and has drinking and everything, and he goes to rehab again. And but at rehab they said I was going to get out in 1 week, but after 5 days they took me out. Boom! That's an excuse again to start drinking. Yeah. I said, are you serious? I say, you're doing it. Why do you blame it on other people? As long as you can see that you are the person doing it, you didn't hit rock bottom. You need to understand you are the one putting the alcohol in your face. If you do that, it's not good. Don't blame it on other people. I can make 1,000 excuses, you see, but that's how people are now, finding excuses to steer away from it. I don't want to do this. It's annoying. Yeah, but unfortunately, everybody can do it. Everybody with addictions, did already, and who got rid of the addiction or alcohol, all addictions, they already went through it. They know how to do it. So if you can do it with that, you can do this with everything else. It all applies. It's the same method applies to everything in life. Just, that's why I always say, don't tell yourself that you're going to do something and then don't do it. Because now you let the most important person down in the world, which is you. And if you start treating your life like that, like for instance with me, like I said, if I say 12 rounds and I don't do 12 rounds and I'm brushing my teeth, I can't look at myself in the mirror. I just brainwash myself like that. Loser, that's what I see. I don't even want to look at myself. And I don't like that feeling, so I just do the 12 freaking rounds. I do what I say I'm going to do. That's the only way to do it.
Yeah. Well, Bas, I appreciate it. I know Sam and I are both grateful for being here. Where can people learn more about you? As we're finishing this up, I want to make sure that we get things in the show notes for our men and women even that are listening to, learn more about you, see what you're actively involved in, websites, YouTube channels. What are you pitching and what can we do to help out?
Well, Facebook, Bas Rutten, the O2 trainer, the long training device, which helps you with everything because everybody's focusing. The survival rule of 3, I leave it like that. An average human being can go 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 minutes without oxygen. And they all focus on the food and the drinking. Nobody focuses on the number one priority. Imagine you're breathing. 95% of people out there breathe wrong. Breathe like this. That difference, 4 to 6 of these breaths is the same as one belly breath. You just change that, and with that device that I have, you will change that immediately and start breathing using your core. Everything's going up. So that's the biggest thing I'm focusing on right now. Bas Rutten, Facebook. But, I did the Exodus 90. We did it twice. And I realized I was wasting a lot of time on the internet. And so I post here and there, but I'm not the guy, hey, man, get ready for a workout. You don't see that anymore. So I
Yeah.
post once every couple of days. I see
Sure.
something funny that's in that post. So, and if I have to announce something, you go to Instagram, Bas Rutten MMA. Most of the time I'll post it there because that's apparently right now, I don't even know, is the most watched site. Instagram, from everything, from Twitter or Facebook, they say Instagram. So that's why I do it. TikTok, whatever. I don't even want to go there because if I open an account like that, it's going to get pulled. Because once you start and you're getting likes, it's kind of feeding you. And then you want that
an
again.
addiction.
So I go, and 100% is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're doing some stuff with some other organizations like Karate Combat now.
Karate Combat, yeah. Go to karate.com. It's a really cool concept. You have like an Olympic level karatekas fighting full contact in a pit, like a specially designed, really badass pit. We do it with a big green screen. So we travel back in time. We go into future. We can project anything we want in the background. And it's really cool to see. There's really great rules. It's great for families because MMA, I can understand. Parents are not going to say to a 10-year-old, okay, watch the fight. But karate, that's a different story. Everybody knows karate. So karate.com, it's free. So why wouldn't you go over there and check it out? It's a lot of fun. And I love the respect among these guys. It's such a big difference when you see you don't see the fake blow-ups in karate. Let me say that. It's all about respect and discipline, and I love that.
Amen. Wow. Well, thank you so much. I'm very grateful for getting to know you and getting to hear you today, in our prayers. And, as we like to end every episode, Sam.
Be a man, be a saint.
Be a man, be a saint. It takes a strong person to be a saint because that person has all these temptations under control. Think about that. That's my goal. But it's very hard to attain. That I do know. Do it perfect. But, it's a great goal to have.
Yeah. Well, God bless you, Bas. It's been great having you on. A real honor. And just thanks for inspiring us today.
Amen.
You're very welcome. And thank you for spreading the love. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's good meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
All right, God bless.